I got it from Arizona Big Media, but it is actually an article from the Arizona Business Magazine. And the title reads, Could Phoenix City Council Vote Damage Tourism Industry? And so Wednesday, July 1st, the Phoenix City Council is scheduled to vote on 3 proposed city ordinances, currently called Phoenix Healthy Tourism and Hospitality Measures, that could have unintended and extremely negative consequences on the tourism industry and all hotels with over 150 rooms in Phoenix. So apparently this would apply to hotels, the larger hotels with over 150 rooms. These proposed ordinances were just posted on Friday, June 26th, without feedback from the hospitality industry, the very businesses that would be regulated by the ordinances, providing little time for review and analysis of the implications. The stated purpose of these measures is to address employee health concerns created by the COVID-19 outbreak. It says, we and our colleagues in the hospitality industry share a deep concern for the well-being of our employees and are working diligently to ensure they enjoy a safe work environment. It is crucial from both a moral and business standpoint that we take all appropriate actions to make sure they're as safe as possible. From our initial analysis, however, the provisions outlined in these ordinances would create significant business challenges for the hotel industry in Phoenix, resulting in the potential loss of millions of dollars and the closure of properties without having a positive impact on the health of the work environment or adding protections for employees. This is a quote from Matthew Crow, who is the managing director of Grossman Company Properties, which operates a number of hotels in the Southwest, including the Arizona Grand Resort in Phoenix. So basically what Crow is alleging is that these ordinances are not going to do what they purport to do. They're not going to keep anybody safer, and he feels it might have on the tourism industry in Phoenix. So what do these ordinances say? So we've got one ordinance that limits the amount of space that housekeeping employees are allowed to clean during a shift. This would result in a need to hire as much as 50% more employees at a time when occupancies are down significantly. And that's something to consider. The idea that they are going to force hotels to increase their cleaning staff at a time when most of their rooms are empty anyway, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Another concern is the ordinances would require each employee to have a 6-hour hand washing training. Employees can neither hire nor retain employees who do not take the training, and the training is not limited to hand washing, but can be about other laws at the sole discretion of the trainer. This seems extremely arbitrary to me, this idea that you have to have 6 hours on hand washing, and I guess other COVID-related laws. I would assume maybe we could talk about masks or something like that, but 6 hours to talk about hand washing, that seems excessive. The article mentions, for comparison, important federal and state laws that also require certifications such as sexual harassment, discrimination, safety in the workplace. They do not mandate minimum hours of training and allow employers to self-certify that the training was completed. In other words, we have precedents for this type of measure. And in these other examples, such as sexual harassment, discrimination, workplace safety, there's no time limit. There's no government regulator that's saying that you have to do this in this amount of time. They simply mandate that you have to have training on these particular subjects. It says, and employers would be required to wait 10 days before they can offer a position to a new applicant. A waiting period of 10 days, he said, is unacceptable to unemployed individuals desperate to find employment and can lessen the ability for a potential employee to make rent or pay bills. And I couldn't agree with this more. The idea that they're going to make the employees, the potential employees, wait 10 days before they can actually get hired, to me seems incredibly excessive. But here's the thing at the end that really, really got me. So I personally don't like any of these ordinances, at least the way that they're being presented here. I think they're all examples of government overreach, and I'm very concerned about them and how this could affect tourism in Phoenix. But the one thing that here at the end that I thought was really, really interesting is that it says that the hotel can actually bypass. It says interestingly, the requirements of these three ordinances can be waived if a collective bargaining agreement is put into place. Now, what do you think of that, Pete? So all those regulations, you can bypass them if you unionize.
Right. I'm not surprised, because if you do have a union agreement, trying to rewrite that in order to comply with the law could be rather difficult. Now, I mean, it would make sense that you would write the bargaining agreement in such a way that, if the law changes, then you comply with the law. But I think for strategic reasons, in order to maintain their autonomy, they're these bargaining agreements are more rigid than they could or should be.
It just seems to me that there's an agenda behind this.
They don't want to have to abide by the regulations. They want to set their own rules in order to create a sort of a space in the market for themselves, where they're abiding by their own rules. That gives them a competitive advantage. That's their agenda. They want to be paid more. They want to play by their own rules.
Yeah, the article mentions that this would create another unlevel playing field where some hotels would be operating under a set of rules mandated by the city, and others would make up their own rules simply because they're unionized. And that just seems incredibly discriminatory to me. And it's something that I certainly would not support, at least the way that it's stated here in this article. And I think there's a lot of civil liberty concerns when it comes to this mandate. It just seems grossly unfair to have one set of rules for those places that are not unionized and places that are. And clearly, just to me, shows an agenda that they are promoting unionization of these hotels, which is not something I think the city council should be doing. I don't have a position where I'm not opposed to unionization of hotels. I think it's up to the workers. I mean, that's my simple position. It's up to the workers to decide whether they want to unionize or not. Obviously, the employers also have a say in that and how that whole situation takes place. But I don't think the Phoenix City Council has any vote in that. That's just my position on it.
Yeah. Well, obviously, there's a bit of an intersection here, where potentially these agreements are impacted by the regulations, and that's what that's addressing. So.
Right. Well, the regulations themselves, I just want to clarify, I think they're silly as well. I don't support them either. I think that I don't think they're going to make anybody safer. I think what they're going to do potentially is just put some hotels out of business that can't afford to hire the new staff, because staffing is always going to be a matter of how much demand do they have, how much occupancy do they have. If they are operating at full occupancy, of course they're going to have and need a larger staff to keep up with cleaning the rooms. I mean, that's just the way that it works. If they don't keep up with that, well, then they're not going to be able to rent those rooms. You can't rent a room if it's not clean. That's probably the number one thing people complain about, is if your room isn't cleaned. But if they don't have the capacity, then requiring them to have more staff, I think, is just going to be a disaster. And again, the 6-hour time limit on the training for washing your hands, I mean, that just seems incredibly excessive to me. I don't see the purpose of that, other than to just say, well, we can tell you what to do. To me, it's certain officials, and I wonder where it's coming from. I wonder who authored these ordinances.
I think that's not at all uncommon, though, when you have regulations that they have arbitrary numbers. They're not based in anything empirical. They're not based in lived experience. That's kind of the problem, right? That you have bureaucrats, people who are have some distance from the situation, are making the rules, or worse, you have lobbyists who are too close and are writing these rules for the benefit, like you said, of the larger resorts, potentially.